Welcome back. And the new Labour leader, David Cunliffe, has had his first week in the job. So, how did it go? Our political commentator, Colin James, joins me from Wellington. Kia ora, Colin. Thanks for joining us this morning. What do you make, I guess, in the first instance, of the tone, if you like, of the way that David Cunliffe has begun his leadership?
Couple of points. He started off by setting the party on what he called a war footing. He made some fairly quick decisions about his staff, around about a third of them left, and made a number of other decisions also quickly. So quick and decisive, a manager in charge of a business almost, or an army, depending which way you look at it. And the other is that he started off, as he's often done, with one-liners. He's the best one-liner Labour leader since Mike Moore, and we saw a little bit of that. We also saw a gaffe when he in his first question time with John Key, he talked about caucus instead of chorus twice.
Yes, so several times.
There we are.
And the way he has begun, is it bringing a level of unity to the party, do you think?
Well, I should also say, I mean, just to underline that quickness and decisiveness, his chief of staff, who comes from outside the system, starts on October the 1st, and by Friday he'd pretty much installed a new chief press officer. So that's also quick and tight. Is it unity? Yes, it is through to the election. There's a real will in the party, I think, both in the parliamentary party and the outside party, to bury hatchets through to the election, to accept that there's a campaign on and to be part of that. The issue is whether that's a short-term unity or a longer-term unity, and does it go through a defeat if that's what happens at the end of next year?
Right, OK. So what approach do you think David Cunliffe will take on Monday when he has, you know, in essence, a bit of a reshuffle?
Well, some people have talked about retribution, and I suppose you might put Trevor Mallard's demotion in that category, but actually it's much more a recognition of his side rather than a retribution against the other side. Shane Jones moves into a really crucial position as leader of the economic development portfolio cluster, and he gets that portfolio to be well placed on the front bench. But on the other side, Jacinda Ardern, who would have been Grant Robertson's deputy if he'd won, she will lose some of her social portfolio but keep children. Chris Hipkins, I'm told, who had to leave his position as chief whip, keeps education, which is a pretty important portfolio in the Labour Party. So 5 portfolio clusters altogether, and I think that's intended again to give a more business-like approach to the way in which they develop policy. But the policy, again, I should say, geared more to the election than to a fundamental redrawing of policy. OK, well, where does all this leave Grant Robertson now then? Well, Grant Robertson, there's been a bit of speculation about him. David Cunliffe's clear preference for deputy leader was David Parker. So that would mean that if he would have accepted Grant Robertson, but would that have been unifying or not? And actually I think that the final solution, which they worked out together, with Grant Robertson coming in as chief tactician in the House, the leader of the House in Parliament, is probably more unifying. And in fact, in the House, you'll probably see the Cunliffe-Robertson rather than Cunliffe-Parker in operation. Now, where does it leave Grant Robertson? With his powder intact, I think, but also I think he's learnt that he needs some work to do if he's going to win the next leadership contest when that comes up. Work on himself presentationally, and also to really want it 24 hours a day, 60 minutes an hour. Just very, very quickly, Colin, I want to touch on too the fact that while all this has been going on, the Greens have kind of disappeared a little bit into the background in terms of the media exposure they've got. And of course, under David Shearer, the Greens got a lot more exposure than what they've had over the last 2 weeks. What do you make of that? Well, we've already seen that the morale of the party is definitely up. They feel that they can win now, that the election's winnable, that they can score some hits off John Key. But they've still got this issue of the Greens, and the Labour Party needs to get the Green vote down but still keep the Greens strong. Now, Russell Norman, I thought, was a bit hyper in the way which he went after Nick Smith on the Rua Taniwha doc report earlier this week. So I think there's going to be some very interesting interaction between Labour and the Greens over the next few months as they settle who's where in that combination.
Thank you, Colin James, our political commentator. Much appreciated.